Great. Okay, let's talk a little football. What's the hot topics, football-wise? What's out there? What's we're gonna play one, definitely.
Just with Major and Greg, I didn't think we saw them out there today. What's kind of their status the rest of this spring?
Greg is about 80% on the Alter G, 80% of his body weight. He had a sprained ankle that was, giving him, some aggravation. So we just kind of shut him down and try to get him back to 100%. Major has more of an injury. He had that ankle injury, and he's kind of re-injured that. So we're going to shut him down for the spring. We'll have those guys back for, all of their full training. But that's just why you're seeing young guys out there playing safety. So we wanted to get healthy at those positions more so. I think we won't practice Major again, but we'll probably get Greg back out there this weekend.
Hey, Coach, how did you enjoy working with Matt House your first year? What kind of job did he do, in particular, halftime adjustments, and how much are you looking forward to working with him in year two?
Well, he's easy to communicate with. I think that in any kind of coaching situation that I've had, I wanted somebody that I was familiar with in terms of his demeanor, personality, which I was, and the system of defense that I was familiar with. So we had that going in, and then he's just been really easy to have dialogue with in intense situations, right? You can have a conversation with somebody when it's just a normal day, and then you go into a game situation and there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of intensity, and that conversation changes. He's the same person all the time, and that makes it easier for me as a head coach to have those kinds of conversations, and makes it really effective for us to, if we do need to make any kind of changes or adjustments at half, we can get to the point, make those, and then he can communicate that to the players.
Coach, over here. When you came in, Coach, you had to rebuild secondary, especially at cornerback. You brought in a couple of experienced guys. Could you talk about the corner spot? And secondly, Toviano and some of the young guys that have been out there, just their roles. But at corner, you don't have the experience you had with Jarrett Bernard Converse and Makai last year.
Yeah, I mean, we have a little bit of experience in a sense that these guys, if you take Alexander and you take, you take Denver, those guys have played, some football for us. Chestnut's played a lot at Syracuse. So, again, I hear your question. Garner coming in and Jarrett Bernard Converse had a lot more experience, but I don't feel like we've put ourselves in a position where you're throwing freshmen out there either. So I think we're younger, where we're going to have a little bit more continuity and consistency at the position. And I think, I think we've put ourselves in a position where we can develop this talent over the next few years. The safety position, as was just mentioned, because we're being careful with, Burns and Brooks, Taviano is getting a chance to play some nickel, and Yates is playing a ton of safeties. And, it's typical, right? I don't know that he would have gotten all this work. It's great that we're giving him this kind of work. Like, he was out there in 2 minutes today. He's got to make a lot of checks. We don't have a ton of offensive linemen, so we're keeping things simple up front. So a lot of the adjustments have to be made on the back end. So as a head coach, this is kind of a really cool spring in the sense that some of the young guys have to really, make a lot of checks, and it's been a good proving ground for them.
Coach, the pursuit of a defensive line coach, is it the time of year a hindrance at all? Are you shocked by the number of people maybe you're hearing from interested? And what's the time frame overall, the look for one?
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to get through the spring. We feel like we're in a great situation with Gerald Chapman, on staff. So there was no rush. We've got to go find a defensive line coach. He'll be a candidate for the position as well. But we'll begin that process once we finish up the spring calendar for us, and then we're on the road, so we can get on the road and get to candidates and make it a whole lot easier. So expect something within the next 3 weeks or so. And yeah, it's LSU. I mean, we've got a great list of candidates that have interest in.
Hey, Coach, how much has Omar Speights helped out with Harold Perkins with his transition? And is there any sort of worry that, not using Harold as much as a pass rusher sort of takes away something from your defense?
Who says we're not going to use him as a pass rusher?
As much.
As much?
Yeah.
I think you're going to see him as active as he's been, and maybe just in a different fashion. If you just line him off the edge, they're going to, everybody's going to game plan for him. I think we put him in a better position at the linebacker position, and then we can move him around on third down. So I think he's going to be as active as any time that we've had Harold. He just has other responsibilities now that he hadn't had before. Omar's just a great compliment, and Greg Penn. Greg's had a really good spring as well. So the three of those guys have really done a nice job. Weeks has done a really good job. So, we've really gone from, a position where we were concerned to a position where we feel really strong. And that Harold now really getting down the nuances of that linebacker position actually gives us a lot more in the playbook that we can do with him from that position than just lining him up off the edge.
Coach, how has Ricky Collins kind of grasped everything since he's came here, being an early enrollee?
Yeah, I know it's a cliche, but it's, he's drinking through a fire hose. It's a lot for him right now, but he's smart and he's picking up, the pieces of the offense as quickly as he can, but he has two guys that are just, exceptional and elite in so many ways, and Jaden and Nussmeier that, you see those two guys and then Ricky, and it's just there's a difference, not in athletic ability, not in skill set. He's got all the skills. It's just going to take him a little time. It's great that he was here for the spring because this is going to help him immensely going into the fall because let's face it, 3 quarterbacks is barely enough, from that perspective. So he's going to have a really good off season here, and hopefully that's really going to put him in a better position where there's parts of the playbook that he can master going into the fall.
Brian, I guess you're 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
And you're missing a lot of key pieces on
Yeah.
offense, but how have you seen the offense come along and a little bit of, what Nussmeier and
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels are going through?
Yeah, I would say this. It's been really good to integrate the freshman wide receivers. Getting a chance to see them as part of what we're doing has been really, really important. Both freshman tight ends has been an important piece to this offensive development for us as well. I think from an offensive line standpoint, getting Bordelon into a position where it's consistent for him at center has been really good for us in that respect. And you can imagine the two quarterbacks are just, really good, and they just continue to build their skill set. Holly at the running back position has been a really good spring for him to learn protections because he's got really good vision and really good ability to see the whole. And I think Coach Wilson's done a really good job of spending much more time on protections and things of that nature. So when you look at, the offense from afar, it's plugging in those new players into those positions where you can say they can help us in the fall. And the other guys, we know about Neighbors. We know about Lacey. We know about the other kind of skilled players, some of them that are injured too. So it's been pretty good.
And you mentioned the freshman wide receivers. Jalen Brown hasn't been out here the last couple of times.
Yeah, he's got a hamstring that it was a grade 1+, but he was out there today. I think we'll have clearance for him on Friday for him to get back into full activities.
Hey, Coach. The transfer portal, you had some really talented guys come out of the transfer portal. How have they adjusted to the program and how y'all do things and adjusted to the fundamentals that you put in place?
Well, it's a good question because, you think that after year one that it's an easy climb to the next stage of your program, but we did bring in a significant amount of freshmen at mid-year and transfers. So it was important that we kind of made sure that we hit it with another coat of paint, if you will, because we didn't want to move too quickly past some of the real important principles of building our program and our process. So we've gone slowly. We've kind of gone over the same things that we did last year with this team, so we're building that foundation stronger. But we had a lot of new faces that we wanted to make sure we got things right with them. And I'm glad we did because there were some things that were not, exactly the way I wanted them in terms of the way we practiced the first few days, and they've picked up and understand that now.
On the transfer portal, I guess it's about to open again. I know you've got Mason Lunsford coming in this summer.
Yes.
Has the needs changed from where they were when you got done with the first signing or the first window to this one? Do you have like an updated preference of what you're looking for?
I still think that there's a couple of needs on defense, and I think we're still maybe interested on the offensive line. I think there's still an interest to add to our offense. But I would say that we're guarded at this period of time as to somebody that's going to make a difference in an LSU football lineup. These are probably going to be guys that can add depth to what you're doing. I don't think you can go out there swinging for, a starter that's going to come in and change the trajectory of your starting lineup. These are guys that can contribute and be part of your depth, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
Hey, Coach, I was curious, you kind of touched on Ricky Collins and what you're looking from him this spring. What about the other two quarterbacks, and Jaden and Garrett? What are the biggest things that you can see them improving on the rest of the practices?
Both of them have a list of things that they want to work on. Jaden's been pushing the ball down the field, trying to really work on quick identification and one-on-one matchups down the field. Garrett is just, discipline and progression reads. So each one of them has some things that Joe Sloan has laid out for him and Mike Denbrock in terms of what they want them to work on specifically. And that's kind of how we've scripted them as well. And they've done a really good job of working on those things.
Coach, to this point in spring, how have you seen Noah Kane, the young running back, step up at a position where y'all have been as thin as you have been?
Noah's been a great leader. I mean, I think he leads by example in the way he practices. He practices hard. He does it the right way, and I think that sets a great example for Trey. And look, the rest of the running back group is, they're walk-ons that are really valuable to us, and all of them. And we really appreciate, their efforts in terms of what they're doing for us because they're getting significant work. But when you talk about those two in particular, I think, Noah's been a great mentor to Trey and showing him how to do things the right way every single day and every single practice. Good? All right, thank you. Appreciate it.